Hey everyone, it's Alison Heikkila. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am excited to do a bit of an overview on the Hawaiian Shores dual tip pens from Artistry by Altenew. Altenew had sent me an email a few weeks ago asking if I wanted to get this set for free, and all I had to do was pay for shipping. And of course I said yes, and I was really excited about it because they're watercolor markers, and that's my favorite type of marker to work with. There are currently 4 of these types of sets available. This is the one that has the most, I want to say, basic, like Roy G. Biv colors of the sets. But the colors are beautiful. I like the packaging. It has the names of the colors on the back here, and all the sets work really well together. What's really cool is the price. This set retails for $11. So if you're on a tight budget and you just want some nice markers to play around with, this is a great set to start with, or any of the sets really, but these are great markers to start with. So let's talk about the packaging. It's a plastic package, and it's got this little flippy thing, like a tongue, that goes into the slot here, and then a tray, and this whole thing slides out if you want it to, and then the colors can just pop up. Now for the markers themselves, they have 2 sides. It's a dual tip pen, and then we have a brush tip on this side. It's like a flexible felt brush tip on this side, and the other side is a tiny little nib that's really nice for like writing or doing fine details, some doodling, things like that. So, and the caps are nice. The material itself is pretty smooth. It's easy to take these on and off. This side isn't as easy as this side. That's only because it's a little smaller and because I have a little bit of trouble with my fingers and my hands, but overall I'm quite pleased at how easy it is to take them both off. Because the caps are different, it's easy to figure out which side you're working with. It's also pictured here on each of the markers as well, and then you've got what collection the color belongs to and the actual name of the color itself. So in here, like I said, it's a pretty basic color family here. The other ones have different color combinations. Some are a little bit more muted and soft. This is just a great starter set of colors. So what I did, I prepared a lot of stuff. So again, I love using watercolor markers. So I grabbed my all-time favorites. These are my Zigs. This is the 80 set. I actually have more than 80. This is the box that it comes in. It's just like this one. This is just old, so it's kind of yellowing and it's a little cracked because I use it so much. But it's the same kind of material. You can see the lines on it. So it's pretty strong. There's a lot of markers missing because I pulled them out so that they'd coordinate with this set. So this is how I store my 80s. And then because they've been expanding the color palette, I have just a zip case. This was given to me by a BTS Secret Santa. It's a Jimin inspired zip case, which makes me super happy. If there's any army out there, you know what I'm talking about. So I keep the rest of my Zigs in here, and they just kind of sit. It's not the greatest option just because it is, so much longer than the markers themselves, and because it's kind of hard to like rifle through, but it works for now. At some point, if I, can find one of these cases empty, I might invest in that just so that I have something that's a little bit more stable, I guess, and then I can flip the colors up so that I could see what color is where. But for now, I have Jimin on my bag, and that makes me happy. Okay, and then I'm also comparing these markers to my Tombows. Okay, so do you guys know, like, at the holidays, like different places have those fancy cookies, right? Like BJ's has those fancy cookies, or Costco. Well, I love the tins that they come in. I always save them. And this is where my Tombows are kept, in this cookie tin. It works. Again, it's not perfect, but it works for me. I just have them all here, and that's how I store them. So you can store them however you like, but that's one of the things that I really like about these Altenew pens, is that This is such a slim box, and even if you have all 4 sets, these are so portable. I don't always color at home. If I have to go to a doctor appointment, or if I'm going to my mom's house, or whatever, like, I often bring my markers with me. So this setup, you know, you have 12 colors right here, and even if you were to get, again, all 4, it's not going to be a whole lot. You know, it's not going to be difficult to transport. So I love how they've packaged this. I think that that's excellent. Okay, so I haven't swatched these yet officially, but I do different things when I'm swatching. These are the Tombows. You could see that I just color each of them out and I label them by color family. That's just, it works for me. And then my zigs, I have this chart, and with that I colored with the color, and then I used a water brush to kind of fade it out. Not a water brush, that's not really true. I used water and a brush. I don't really love water brushes. I struggle with the amount of water that comes out. I feel like I don't have as much control. So I tend to just use a brush with a bottle of water, or like a jar of water. So that's what I did for all of these. And this is how I keep track of my colors and I can see what is what. Okay. So what I did, beyond all of that, we've got the colors here, and then let's see if I can get this over here without messing up my rainbow. Here are the Tombows. Here are the Altenew, and then I have, hold on, the zigs. They're not all going to fit on the screen, but you guys get the idea. Okay, so I have all 3 sets, and I tried to get colors that were as close as possible to the Altenew markers. Okay, so I've got them all here in case we need to grab them. We will be coloring with all of them, all of the sets, just so that I could do a fair comparison. All right, here's what we've got. So I made a little chart. On the top here, you could see that the Altenew markers, then I have the zigs, and then I have the Tombow. Before I go on, let me just show you what these markers look like, because this might be new to you. So here's one of the Tombows. Let me grab the Hawaiian Shores. This way we can do a comparison. Okay. So you can see that they both have a brush tip. They're both like a felt tip. The Tombows are bigger, not necessarily better, just bigger. They're both pretty flexible. Let me get a piece of scrap. Okay. Not sure how well you'll be able to see this without me zooming in. You can see the shape. They both put out a very similar line. These guys are a little fatter if you were to just push on them, but you know, if you do hand lettering, calligraphy, that type of thing, either one of these are going to be really nice. I'm feeling them, and these feel a little softer. The Altenews feel softer than the Tombows, but that could just be because of the shape and the size. But these do feel softer to me. That's not a bad thing, that's just an observation. Okay, for the back side, again, we have this tiny, fine nib there. These are different. This is a bullet. So it's going to give you a different size line weight. Not a huge difference, but a difference. And this is just personal preference. What do you like better? You know, I happen to like writing with this type of nib over this. But if I'm coloring, I'm going to probably want the top one. It's just personal choice. They're both going to work great. Now for the zigs, that's a totally different ballgame. The zigs, first of all, only have one end to them, okay? These are an actual brush. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Do you see that? It's a true brush. So you can get really fine lines. You can like kind of splay out the brush and get something fat, or you can do something with both. And that's all just the one tip. So that's very different. Are you comfortable with an actual brush? Maybe, maybe not. Again, these are my favorites, the zigs. That's just because I've been using them for a long time, although I've had the Tombows the longest. I should turn them around, right? This way you can really see the colors. Let's do that. It's just personal preference. I happen to like using the brush tips of the zigs because I love to paint. So, you know, that is just, it kind of works for me. In the end, does it really matter? No, not so much. You know, it comes down to what colors do you like, what's your budget, does the sizing matter? You can see that the zigs and the Tombows are a very different size. Do you need 2 tips? You know, these are the questions you want to ask yourself if you're shopping for markers. Okay, so here are the colors again. And you can see that they're all pretty close with the exception of a couple. So this blue, this is called, hold on, turquoise, is very different from any other blue I've got. It's a beautiful shade, and I'm really glad that I have it because I think that this blue is going to fill in a lot of gaps for me. It's really great. So I'm happy that I have that color now. And then this gray is very different from any other gray that I have. It's got kind of a blue undertone, kind of a green undertone. It's definitely not a warm gray. It's kind of like a stone color. In fact, I think that might be what it's called. Silver stone. That is an appropriate name for it. It is very silvery and it does look kind of stone-like. So those are very different. The zigs do not have an orange that's similar to the orange in either of these sets. This was the closest that I could find. This is called pale orange. You can see I wrote the numbers for each. This is the only one of all of the zig colors that is not in the original 80. I had to grab something from my other marker pack. But otherwise, I'm going to say that they're pretty darn close. I should have flipped these two. I grabbed this one by mistake first. So that's why there's that arrow there, because this number 47 really should go with this lighter shade of green, and the 48 should go with this mid-tone. Okay, moving on. Aren't the colors really pretty though? They're just so pretty to look at. Again, you could just see that this is just a nice basic starter set of colors that will work for so many things. Okay. So what I did next, this is, by the way, this is all Canson mixed media paper, and then I have a piece of Strathmore smooth Bristol cardstock. These are the 2 papers that I always use when I am working with watercolor markers. I kind of use them interchangeably. I tend to go with the Strathmore a little bit more because it's a heavier weight, and I like that it's smooth, although I will say that I like that there's a bit of a texture to the Canson mixed media, but this is significantly thinner. You can see that it really moves a lot more. Okay, you'll notice these here. What I did was I grabbed just a couple of basic shapes. So the leaf was from this organic fruit set from Simon Says Stamp. This is no longer available. It's not about the stamp sets, guys. It is just about the shape and what we're going to do to color the images in. You don't need these stamp sets for this at all. It's just to give you an idea of what we're doing because it's going to work for the techniques that I want to try. And then I used the mandala maker from Gina K Designs. I grabbed the oval and then I grabbed this little circle. Okay. All of these have been stamped with VersaFine Clair. You know I love VersaFine Clair. This is my favorite ink for sentiment, and it's perfect for when you're working with watercolors or watercolor markers. So that's why I chose this. Okay, so here's my plan. We've got these leaves here, and I chose a leaf. Again, it doesn't matter. I could have done hearts. It doesn't make a difference. But because of the way this marker set is, the greens, I had 3 colors. So I have a light, a medium, and a dark. So I figured that I would color the leaves with the green from each of the sets. And then this circle is going to be one color that I blend out with water. And then the ovals will be two colors that I blend in the middle. So I was thinking for the ovals, I would do like red to blue, see how we get a purple in the middle. And then this, I don't know, maybe I'll use the yellow or something. I'm not sure. But we're going to start with the leaves, and I'm going to color each of them with the combination of green from each set of markers. So, excuse me, I'm going to zoom in and we'll see how this works. Again, we're going to start on the Canson. I'm going to sit down and hope that I stay in frame. I'm going to start with my dark. So the top is my Altenew row, so I'm going to start with my Altenew marker. And I have not colored with these before. This is the first time I'm doing it. The only thing I've done with them was this, and when I first unboxed them, I kind of scribbled out a couple of colors. But this is the first time I'm actually coloring with them. You can see that I can get some nice flicks going on here because of the shape of that brush tip. I have to say, I'm really liking these markers. Just based on what I've done so far with them and observing them, I'm really happy with them, and I'm going to need the rest of the collection. I'm kind of a marker fanatic, so, you know, me getting another few markers is not going to be a surprise to anybody. So I'm really happy with how this has blended. That took no time, and it blended really nicely. And you can see how quickly I'm doing this. This is all done in real time. Let's move over to the Bristol, just because since I've already got these kind of popped up. And you don't have to leave them in this plastic case if you don't want to. If you have another type of solution that you'd rather use for your markers, then go for it. I'm looking at it because I like to travel with my markers. I think it's great to keep them in the original packaging, but if you don't want to, that's okay. So you can see how nicely that's blending out with really minimal effort. Again, this is on Bristol from Strathmore. Look at how pretty that is. That's really nice. And they lock into place, which is nice too. So let's hold these both up. I think they both look really good on both of these papers. I am so happy with them. For 11 bucks? I mean, come on. It's crazy. Okay, so let's do the zigs. Again, I'm going to start with my darkest. This color is called Deep Green. And I use these a whole lot. So some of them might be a little drier than if you were to just buy them, you know, outright, just because I use them so often. And now I've got, excuse me, I want to use May Green. Hold on. I'm just checking my chart since I had them backwards. Yeah, May Green first and then Emerald Green. And you can see that this is blending out really nicely too. We'll do it quickly on the other one, and then I'll show them to you up close. What's nice about this paper, the Strathmore, is that the color just glides right across it. May Green next. It kind of sits on top. It doesn't soak in right away. So you have plenty of opportunities to blend. I'm starting on this side with this Emerald Green because I want the purest form of the color before I start blending into the May Green. There we go. Okay. Put that down. And now you can see that they really look very, very similar. The colors themselves are a little different, but that's because they're different brands, right? But they blend really beautifully. I am so happy with them. Okay, I love the depth of this green. What is this one called? Forgive me, I haven't memorized them yet. It's called Evergreen. That Evergreen is a really nice deep green. Okay, so now let's go into the Tombows. This is number 346. This brush tip is definitely stiffer than the Altenew. Not good or bad, just an observation. But now that I've colored with the Altenew, I can definitely feel that that one is bouncier. Again, I'm starting at the end so that I can get the pure form of that color before I blend into the other one. The other two colors were 245 and 195. So now I'm starting with the 346 again on the Strathmore. This color has a little bit more of a bluish tone to it than the Evergreen does, or the deep green that I used from Zig. Pulling that color out, and then we'll start with the third color on the end and just kind of blend them together. Okay. I think that they all work really well. I do. I think that the depth, I'm achieving more depth with the Altenew, but that's because of the palette that they've chosen. I could have gone with different palettes for these and achieved more depth with them because I have more colors available, but I wanted to keep it as close to the Altenews as possible. But I think that they, I mean, if you were to just pick out your favorite, what would you base it on? Would you base it on the colors? Yeah. Blendability? There's really no contest here. They're all the same. They're all the same. Okay. So now I think what we're going to do is pick a color that we're going to start coloring in and then use water to blend it out. So let me grab my water and a brush. If I can find my good brush. Here we go. I've got my Princeton Snap in a size 4. Let's use the orange. Why not? Starting on the Strathmore this time. Just going to add that color. And by the way, before I started filming, let me grab my Vistoria cotton cloth. Before I started filming, I hopped onto the Altenew app, and it's probably the same for their website, just to see how much information there is on these markers, and there's a whole lot. So if you're considering getting these markers, I highly recommend you take a look at their website so that you can get more information. Now, I think that because my water is dirty, it's kind of blurring out the color a bit, but it's not really pulling a whole lot of color down, which is kind of surprising. Let's see how it works on the other paper. Okay, I'm going to just pull this down. Okay. Let's see what happens when it dries. We'll be able to tell a little bit better when it dries. Now again, the Zig that I'm using is a lot paler than this orange. I have, true oranges in Zigs, but they wouldn't have coordinated so well with the orange in the Altenew set. Okay. Blending this out. All right. Kind of having the same sort of effect. And now we're going into the Tombows. And we're going to blend that out. it seems like they're all reacting pretty much the same way. There isn't a whole lot of color being pulled down. I think that the Tombows are doing it a little bit more. I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. The zigs are not really, but again, this is a super pale color, so there's not a whole lot of pigment in this, so it might not be the best option to kind of show what it can do, because I do this with my zigs in other cases, but with darker colors. Let me just show you. Let's grab this green. So this is the deep green that we used before. And you can see how much more color is being pulled. So that could just be kind of a trait of the orange versus anything else, but you can see that that color pulls out really easily. So now that these are pretty dry, you can see that the orange did kind of get pulled down. Not so much with the pale orange from the zigs, but again, that's because there's less pigment in there, so there's less for it to pull. It's not as easy to notice, but it did do some, especially on the Bristol. So I'm pretty happy with this. If I were to actually be coloring with this, like on a project or something, I would probably use more than just one color. I'd probably, if I was working with orange, I'd probably start with a little red, add some orange, and then kind of pull it down with the water brush, but you can see that it does work really well. Okay, so now let's work on these ovals. So I decided that we're going to go with red and blue and try to get a purple in the middle. So I'm going to zoom in again. Okay. All right, so I've got the Persian blue from Altenew. And then I have crimson, also from Altenew. And we can blend with the marker themselves. We can blend with water. Some of these companies have blending brushes. I know that I have the Zig blending brush, the Tombow blending brush. You can use what you like. But I'm going to just probably use the markers and see what we get. That's okay. I don't love that. I might go in with it with some water, but let's see how the other markers react first. All right, so now I have cornflower blue from the Zig. This one needs to be replaced pretty soon. It's getting pretty dry. And then I have geranium red from the Zigs. You can see that the colors across the two browns are pretty close. Going back in with the cornflower blue. I feel like this blended better, but we'll see how it works on the Bristol. And for the Tombow, I'm going to do 476. This blue is different. I didn't really have anything that was perfect, like a perfect match, but it was close enough. And then 847. The red, I think, is pretty close. Back in with the blue. That's okay. I think that the Zig did the best job here. Let's try how it works on the Bristol, and then we'll see if we want to add some water. So again, we're going to start with the Altenew. And as a point of reference, if you go back to the beginning and you want to like write down the marker numbers that I've used so that you can do some tests yourself, or if you want to see if you own the markers that I used, you can definitely kind of pause or do a screen cap to see all of the colors that I have on my charts. I think I went over it a little too much. I think it looked better before I went back in with the blue, but it definitely looks better on the Bristol than it does on the mixed media cardstock. Okay, let's do the Zigs. I have a little bit of red on my cornflower blue here, but that's okay. And you don't have to worry if, one color gets onto the marker that, doesn't belong. Say you're working with the yellow and you're blending with red or whatever. Don't worry about it. These markers will take the color and help you blend, but then it'll kind of work itself off. That's actually a nice technique to do. Touching one marker to the other, or, having a pile of a color here and then blending with another one and then kind of going over to your project, whatever you're working on. That's kind of a fun technique that you can do. So I don't know if you saw there was a little bit of red on this too, but we're just kind of blending it out. It doesn't hurt the marker at all. You don't have to worry about that. And I just want to mention that paper is really key. If you have markers that are not blending on your paper, it's probably not the marker's fault. It's probably the paper. So if that's happening to you, switch your paper. Paper that works with Copics doesn't necessarily work with watercolor markers and vice versa. So just keep that in mind. Don't think that it's you. Don't think that it's the markers. It's probably the paper. Okay, so let's take a look at this. The zigs, I think, did the best. I think that they all look better on the Bristol, but I think I want to go in with some water and see what happens. So we'll start with the Altenew. And this could very well ruin it. I don't know. We're going to see. Kind of getting a bit of an inky mess, but that's okay. And I chose, these strong colors on purpose. You might get a much better reaction with paler colors, but I wanted to go in, guns blazing and see how this worked. All right. Now we're going to do the zigs, although I'm pretty happy with how the zigs look. Okay. Oh, that got really inky. All right. Getting some water lines here, but that's just because of the way I kind of did only the center. You can work that out with the water. Okay. So that definitely gives you a better blend. I'm not doing the cleanest job of, kind of blending this all out. If I were working on a project, I would be taking more time, but this is already a very long video and I don't want to keep you here all day. So I think that kind of made them, it kind of evened the playing field a little bit by adding the water. I do. They all blended much better with the water. The zigs, I feel, did the best without adding the water. You just didn't really need it. So I think that pretty much covers it, you guys. Sorry that this is a long video, but I wanted to go through a lot of different points, and just give you as much information as I could about each of these markers. I'm loving these Altenew markers. I think that they're really great. I'm going to zoom out. I think they're really great. I think that if you're just starting to, play with coloring, this is excellent. I think if you have a budding artist at home that, maybe you don't want to spend $150 on, a high quality marker for, just a few colors, this is a great way to go. If you are on the go, traveling, going different places, and you want to bring coloring with you, these are excellent to bring. That's not to say that these are not. I bring my zigs everywhere. The Tombow's not quite as much, only because of the storage that I put them in. That cookie tin is pretty noisy, and that can be distracting. But the zigs I take everywhere. So, you know, this is another great option to have a nice palette of markers that are easily portable. You just throw them in a bag with some paper, some stamped out images, you're good to go. They all work really well with the Nocturne VersaFine Clair ink. I love them. I think they're great. I think that these are really good markers. I'm going to need to get the other 3 sets. I'm so excited that Altenew sent them to me. Again, I had just gotten a random email and I paid for shipping, but they sent me the markers for free, and for 11 bucks, I think it's well worth it to get a set of 12 markers. None of these are refillable, so you'd have to buy new ones each time. My zigs, I've only had to replace maybe a dozen of them, and I've had them for about 8 years now, and I do use them a lot. The Tombows, not so much because I don't use them as much, but I can see these lasting a while. I really like the smaller tip on the other end. And I think that's about it. If you have any other questions beyond what I've talked about here, please let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to answer it for you. If there's a test you want me to do that I didn't do, I can totally do that. But I think that pretty much covers it. I'll have the supplies listed below in the description box. Make sure that you take a look at that. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know that this was a long video, but I think that it was important to kind of go through all of these different steps to show you the difference between all of the markers. But they all work great. This is an excellent value. Excellent value. So if you can, and if you're interested, take advantage of it because they're great. And check out the other 3 sets. So that's about it for me today. I will be back very soon with another video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I truly do appreciate it. I will see you all very soon. Be well, stay safe, peace out.